Dear Scare Mail. Before I get started, I just want to preface what I was going through before this dark, miserable day. It was arguably the worst time in my life. My high school sweetheart of 8 years had recently broke up with me. It was a punch in the gut for sure, but what would happen later on would make all of that seem like a walk in the park. No pun intended. The year was 1995. Winter had just arrived here in Montreal, and I was working for an up-and-coming software company at the time. Business had just started to boom, and you could see growth all over the office building, including our lobby. I was just wrapping up after a long day of work. We had a lot of new clients to satisfy, so to say I had to work late was an understatement. I grabbed all of my belongings and threw on my coat while I fastened my beanie and scarf to snugly cover my face. I worked my way downstairs and began to exit through the lobby when, lo and behold, Ben, my ex, was sitting down, waiting. "Ben?" I exclaimed. "What are you doing here?" At first, I was playing dumb. In my naivete, I thought he had come to make amends with me while I was leaving work. At least, that's what I was hoping for. "Oh, Leslie," he said. "I didn't know you worked this late." And here I was, thinking he was the one playing dumb, sitting down here and waiting for me until I left. But the truth would make me look like a fool. I explained since the company had expanded, I was putting in more hours. Before I could apologize for making him wait, my worst fears were realized. Ben suddenly turned his attention to someone behind me. The awkward expression on his face led me to believe that his reason for being there was not going according to plan. So, I turned around to see one of my coworkers, Judy, standing behind me, who, judging by her expression, was not thrilled to see us together. And then, it dawned on me. Ben wasn't here for me, he was here for Judy. And just like that, my world came crashing down for a second time. The worst part is that I was the one who introduced them, all the way back at our company's spring retreat earlier that year. I felt like such an idiot. I turned back around to Ben with anger and tears in my eyes. "Judy? Seriously?" was all I could muster before bursting into tears. I sprinted out of the lobby and I didn't look back. A part of me was hoping he'd chase after me, but he never did. He let me go, again. I wish I could say this was the worst part of that day, but little did I know, my day was about to get far, far worse. I decided to cut through Mount Royal Park on my way home, hoping the scenic route would calm me down and clear my mind. Normally the park is full of people, but today, of all days, it was close to empty. It was getting late and cold, so I found myself hustling home alone, the sounds of the city far behind me, now surrounded only by wilderness. My feet against the snow was all I could hear as I tried to enjoy the scenery around me, until I heard something else. I could hear someone's footsteps not too far behind me. At first, I didn't think anything of it. It is a park, after all, and it was soothing to know that I wasn't entirely alone. I took a quick glimpse behind me, and what I saw shook me to my core more than the snow itself. A large man well over 6 feet, was staring intently at me, following my footsteps in the snow. I immediately felt the sense that he wasn't just a passerby. A deep anxiety developed within me, but I did my best not to panic. My building wasn't too much further ahead, and I knew I would be home soon. I decided to pick up the pace just a little to be safe, and what I heard next greatly alarmed me. I heard his large feet grinding against the snow, faster and faster as he tried to keep pace with me. I started to panic, for I was now certain he was following me. Luckily, I was approaching the edge of the park along with a busy intersection just before my apartment building. A sense of relief overcame me until I turned around to see that the large man was now sprinting in my direction, determined to catch up to me. In a frenzy, I screamed for help as I came up to the intersection between the park and my building, but there was no one there to help. I looked up as the glowing hand of the crosswalk held me in place, but that wouldn't stop me. I bolted through the busy intersection, nearly getting hit by a car as I hurried my way through. At this point, I wasn't sure of how close the large man was, but thankfully, I was now at my building. I lived on the 3rd floor, so all I had to do was beat him up the stairs and call the police. So, I wasted no time as I vaulted up the steps, but as I was doing so, I saw him following just a couple flights down. I was nearly there. I turned the corner off the stairway and bolted down the hall to the door of my apartment. I fiddled with my keys until I was able to find the right one. I finally put it in and unlocked the door. I breathe a sigh of relief until I see the large man in the corner of my eye exit the stairway. We locked eyes. I hurried my way into my apartment and slammed the door behind me. I didn't have to worry about locking the door since the doors automatically locked when closed in my building. I sprinted to my bedroom where the telephone was next to my bed when I realized I made a critical error. I had forgotten that the doorstop on my door was broken. Normally, it would close the door behind you once you entered, but just recently, mine had started getting caught as it was trying to close. I heard the gears of the doorstop grind together as it came to a halt. I stopped in my tracks, petrified at the realization that my front door was now left open. I heard his big foot kick the door as he pushed it open. I screamed in terror as I slammed my bedroom door shut, being sure to lock this one. I ran over to the telephone and began to dial the police until a large bang against the door startled me greatly, causing me to drop the phone. "Hey," he said as he feverishly jiggled the door handle. "Hey, open up." I screamed at the top of my lungs for him to leave as I pulled the phone back up by its cord. I put the phone to my ear just in time for the operator to hear me. But before I could say another word, the man's voice froze me in fear. "Hey," he said, "let me in and I'll go easy on you." "Go to hell," I yelled to him as I began urgently giving the operator details of my situation. "He has long brown hair with a middle part, a mustache, big window glasses, a green zip-up jacket with blue jeans, and muddy black boots. Please, hurry! As I gave his description, the man banged loudly on my bedroom door, and then banged again and again. I could tell he was using two hands just by the sheer force of it. It startled me, but the operator assured me that they were on their way. "It's too late," I shouted to him. "They're coming for you now." He planted two more loud bangs on the door until it became quiet. I could hear his big, bulbous feet stumble backwards as he stood in place, probably panicking if I had to guess. Then I heard him stomp his way out of my apartment. I didn't leave the room until the police arrived, and even then, I didn't feel safe. The police took my statement and investigated the scene. Despite all the banging on my door, there were no signs of a break-in or forced entry. Surprisingly, my apartment security cameras were offline at the time of the incident, so there was no video evidence of it either. The officers didn't say this directly, but they alluded that I made the whole thing up due to hysteria after seeing Ben with Judy. They also inferred that I fabricated the whole incident in hopes that it would bring Ben and I back together. Upon hearing this, I had many words for them, none of which were very polite. Despite this, they stationed a Mountie at my door for the next several nights. The large man never returned, nor was he ever found. In the months that followed, I managed to find love again. Daniel was his name, and he just so happened to be the Mountie they stationed to guard my door. We are still married till this day. It wasn't a happy ending for everyone, however, for not too long after, they had a woman about my size stabbed to death in Mount Royal Park, not too far where I first saw the large man. My vindication turned into frustration when I realized that this all could have been avoided and another's life could have been spared had the authorities taken my account seriously. I think back all the time to the phrase, "another walk in the park," as if it's supposed to be so easy. And for 99% of people, it is. But the next time you find yourself taking a stroll through the park, be sure to look behind you, because if you don't, you just may end up like the 1%.